In step 5 of this tutorial, we're going to finish up and add a couple more filters and then some type. So I have actually already built the type because that's not really what this tutorial is about. You probably already know how to do that. So that's what's in these folders here at the top, but we're going to pick up where you left off on your lighting layer. Click on it to make it to active if it isn't already, and make a copy of it. So Command J, name this one linen texture. Go to Filter, choose Filter Gallery. There's all sorts of textures in here. Right now we can't see much of our image, so click the little minus sign in the bottom left corner until you can see enough of our guy to see how this is looking. I'm going to use the linen texture. You're welcome to use a different one if you would like. When you click a texture, it applies it to the whole image and then gives you some controls where you can affect the size of it. So if I take it clear down, you can't really even see it. It just makes little bumps. So I want it up where we can see it. If this were a lower resolution image, we could actually go higher, make it bigger. But because this is a high resolution image, this is as big as it gets. The relief is how strong those highlights and shadows are. And again, you don't want to go way the heck out there. So I'm going to put mine down at about 4 or 5-ish and then click OK. And that has applied it to that image. Now, if there's some really funky patterning going on, try zooming in or zooming out one. Often that's just an effect of where you're looking at it from. We don't want it to go all the way down into the black area, so I'm going to throw a layer mask on this one again and paint black over those areas that I don't want it in. Pretty much if it's solid black on the picture, I don't want it to show there. Not too worried about it in his hat, but mostly those corners and then down around his hand. Okay, the last one we're going to add is the third image that we've got, the one that's called Cardboard Collage. So move over to that and then select everything, Command All or Command A, copy, Command C. Let's close out of that window because we're not going to need it again. And then Command V to paste it and name this one just texture is fine. For this one, you're going to double click on the layer where there's not any words or type to bring up the layer styles box and move the blend if setting to down here. It should be set to gray. Grab that top left black slider and move it to the right. And what you'll see is all of the blacks in that top layer are just disappearing. It makes it like those are invisible. So pull that over to the right till there's just a little bit of specks left. And then to soften that and get rid of some of this last bit, hold down Option, click and drag that slider a little further to the right. That splits the slider, and you can accomplish some really neat effects with that, so I would really encourage you, play around with all 4 of these. You can split any of them, see what you can come up with. When you're done, hit OK. Now these dots are just a little too distracting. Anytime something's too distracting, try lowering the opacity of the layer, because we want it to look like they're just maybe blemishes or things that have happened to that photo over the time. So right now we've got all of our texture set up, which is kind of exciting. The last thing we want to do is add a hue saturation adjustment layer. So if you don't have your adjustment panel available, go to Window, choose Adjustments. If it's out, it'll pop up like mine did. Click on the hue one. If you hover over them, you'll see the name of it up here. The hue is in the second row all the way to the left. It'll pop up your properties bar, and we need to check colorize, because right now if we change the hue to wherever we try and go, it won't actually change much because everything on the screen is shades of gray and it doesn't really have anything to work with. So to make a black and white image look more sepia, click the colorize button and it will just make some adjustments for you, and then you can take it from there. So change the hue, which is the top slider, to somewhere in kind of a brownish beige range, and then maybe take the saturation down just a little bit. So I'm putting mine at about 16, maybe more like 20, and then click or you don't need to click OK, but if you want this window to disappear, you can minimize it. And that's the texture. That's all of it. If I put my type on the top, it looks like a for real cover, and that's an awfully fun thing to do, to take an image from a simple photograph into a final product. For my class, you need to save this as a JPEG and save it as a PSD and turn both of those in.